Well, hello YouTube, Jeremy with Four Sons Off Road. So I just wanted to do a new video, and I thought, hey, might as well just do a live one, and that way I can answer any questions if anybody is online and watching right now. But I just wanted to cover a few bases for those of you who might be looking to buy a mini truck or may have already bought one, and just looking for some answers to common questions. So today I just want to cover three of the most common questions that we get with these mini trucks, which is number one, what are they good for? A lot of people have these ideas that mini trucks are going to be replacements for daily drivers. Now, again, in this video, I'm generalizing. So obviously our marketplace, we're up here in Canada. We do deal with a lot of US clients as well. But for the most part, I'm dealing with North America. So if you're watching from, outside of North America, I'm not going to have a really good grasp on your local market, but for the North American market, these trucks are generally best used for off-road utility vehicles. Now, when I say off-road, I also, they're good for that slow speed country road type of things. Are they daily drivers? Yes and no. If you live in a city where your maximum speed limits are, 60 kilometers an hour, 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, you could probably get away with driving one of these little things around pretty much every day. They are not highway vehicles. They're no good on the freeway. They're not built for your interstates, our bigger freeways in Canada here. So when you're looking at a K-class mini truck, so your Suzuki Carry, your Daihatsu Hi-Jet, Subaru Sambar, Honda Acti, Mitsubishi Minicab, these are all K-class vehicles in Japan. They're 660 cc's. They're only about 45 to 65 horsepower for like a fancier turbocharged model if you find one. They were designed for the Japanese market and, for slower roads, tighter cities, things like that. So to try to get one of these things on the highway, they're just not highway capable. We get questions all the time of, can I add higher gears? If I put bigger tires, will they go faster? Not really. I mean, you really just don't have the power to turn bigger tires. So, hey guys that are watching, hello there. So one of the questions we've got already is, can anyone tell me what do they cost in US dollars? Good question. It really depends. I mean, these are used vehicles. So you're going to be looking at ranges for good mini trucks, probably anywhere in the range of $2,000 to $20,000 US. And I'm sorry about the huge range, but if you're looking at a 1988 Honda Acti with 100,000 miles on it, it's going to be a $1,000 truck if it's still running. If you're looking at a 2018 Suzuki Carry, Super Carry with an extended cab and four-wheel drive and a dump box, you're going to pay $20,000. So, I mean, there's any range in between. Average, if you're looking at, say, like a 25-year-old truck in the U.S. trying to get away from, your to be able to register it for on-road, most of those trucks, in that 25-year-old range, if they're in good condition, lower miles, you'll see them for $3,000 to $5,000 US. Some of the fancier, more rare ones might be, in upwards of $5,000 to $7,000 US. It really depends on the truck. So I kind of have to generalize. In the US, there's two different classifications. So there's your on-road and then there's your off-road. Off-road classification, you can bring these things in brand new, literally in the US, if you're going to be using them for off-road use only. So in that respect, you're better off bringing in or picking up a, 2007, 2010, something, used but relatively new. Because oddly enough, you'll probably pay $5,000 for a 1992 Suzuki Carry. And I bet you $6,000 gets you a 2005 Suzuki Carry. So like literally the big difference, of course, is one's going to be usable on road, which is a little more desirable for, people. So the prices go up. The other one's going to be off-road use only. So depending on your state and your DOT laws, it might limit your usage of that type of a vehicle. So hopefully that answers your question, Raymond. Not sure if it does or not, but if there's anything else, definitely let us know. So again, that brings me back to, what are they good for? I mean, they're, in my opinion, best suited for off-road, not really good highway vehicles. Again, tight cities, slow country roads, good vehicles for that. But at, generally 50 horsepower, these things aren't really going to be a really good speedy highway vehicle. Now, that brings me to the next question, which is different vehicles, different brands are better at different things. So you'll see us dealing almost exclusively with Suzuki Carries. The reason for that, again, is we focus on the off-road market. Suzuki, in our opinion and in our experience, is the best off-road truck. They're the most easily customizable. They kind of are the easiest to work on, are kind of the most rugged in terms of just the off-road ability of them. Things like your Honda Acti. We get lots of questions about Honda Actis and Subaru Sambars. Terrible, terrible, terrible off-road vehicles. Are they bad trucks? Absolutely not. They're fantastic. Subaru Sambar is probably one of the most solid mini trucks out there. Almost impossible to lift and really difficult to do any sort of major off-road accessories and modifications to. Same with the Honda Acti. So depending on what you're after will depend on, what type of a truck you want to get into. A couple of questions here we're still getting. I own a DD51 2x4 speed rear diff lock 13-inch. Oh, so just a comment there. No, that's an awesome little truck. Those 4-speed Suzukis with rear diff lock, fantastic little off-road trucks. Again, perfect example of not the greatest on-road truck, a 2x4 speed Suzuki Carry, foot to the floor, with the wind at your back is probably 90 kilometers an hour top speed, so they're definitely not going to be getting you on the 401 anytime soon. But thanks, guys, for watching. I appreciate your comments for sure. So 80 kilometers an hour, yeah, with the 13-inch tires probably, definitely. But anyways, so again, the first thing, again, what are they good for? Again, in our opinion, off-road use, slower city roads, maybe slower country roads for sure, for that, but they're just not built for highways, right? So the other thing, of course, is just the size. They are mini, they're small. Now, there are exceptions to this. The newer trucks, and again, in Canada, unfortunately for my Canadian viewers, in Canada, it has to be 15 years old. So the newest thing we can get our hands on right now are early 2004 in a Suzuki. That's a DA63T. They're not huge trucks. If you're over 6 feet tall, yeah, you'll tend to start to get pretty cramped in these little things, especially the older ones in the 90s and 80s. They're small little trucks. I hear once you get into the newer style ones, which unfortunately in Canada we can't get, but in like a Suzuki DA16, I hear there's like lots of leg room, and actually a big guy can climb in those comfortably, no problem. So again, if you're looking for a little bit, again, that's off-road only in a newer style truck like that, but the newer, the better generally, if you're looking for size and capability. So again, that's what they're good for. Number two, the most asked question we get from guys who are either looking to buy a mini truck or who have already bought one and just don't have answers yet is, where do you get parts and where can you get them serviced? Now, let me preface this by saying, these are not rare vehicles. So again, speaking to the North American market, they are not North American vehicles. Therefore, nobody's going to know what you're talking about, when you're talking about a mini truck, or I guess if you bought a Suzuki Carry and you walked into your local Suzuki dealer and said, hey, I've got a 2006 Suzuki Carry truck and I need XYZ for it, they're going to look at you like you're from outer space because they have no idea what you're talking about. These vehicles were never essentially, again, I'm generalizing, but they were never brought into the North American market for the most part. The North American automotive market sticks to itself. So, Suzuki USA is Suzuki USA. Toyota USA is Toyota USA. Honda USA is Honda USA. They really don't share across platforms as much as you might think they do. They really don't at all. Now, again, there's going to be exceptions to all that. But that being said, these are still not rare vehicles. I mean, there's literally hundreds of thousands of these things in Japan, in Europe, Russia, other Asian markets. So they're not rare. you just need to know where to look for parts. So again, you can get parts from either, there are lots of mini truck dealers. I'm not going to be naming any specific places in the US, or Canada that you can get parts. Of course, you can get parts for the newer style Suzukis from us right off our website. But you can find a simple Google search will bring up dozens and dozens of resources for parts for these things. Most of the really good ones are going to be direct out of Japan. So if you're not afraid of going online and doing some research and getting into the Japanese companies, you'll literally be able to get, for the most part, every last nut, bolt, and sticker for these things out of Japan directly. So if you can't find what you're looking for in Canada or the US, start looking in Japan, because again, these are very common vehicles. Scott's asking, how hard is it to register for on the road in Oregon? Scott, I honestly am not going to have all the perfect answers for my US customers in the US. Your rules and regulations down there vary honestly from state to state to state. So to generalize, in the US, to get a mini truck on the road, it has to be at least 25 years old or older to be able to get it, registered for street use. If you've got all your proper documentation, your export certificates, all that kind of stuff together, you should have no problem getting it registered for the road if it's older than 25 years old. Now, some states will actually allow off-road vehicles to be used on certain roads. So if you have something newer than 25 years old, doesn't mean that you can't use it on the road. It's just going to depend on your local state, DOT rules and regulations and speed restrictions and, road restrictions and things like that. So I'm sorry, I won't have any real specific answers for you there, Scott. But again, generally they've got to be 25 years old for you to have less problems, I guess, getting them on the road. But so again, if you want to get parts for these things, you just have to search around, because again, they're not rare. So you can get parts, and I mean like literally everything for these vehicles out of Japan. Service is a little bit of a different story, because again, if you go to your local dealership, they're not going to know what you're talking about when you bring these little things in. So we've actually found that the bigger service stations are generally the ones that are, the least willing to help you out with these mini trucks. We've had a lot of customers report back to us, and even our own experience, where we've taken these just to third-party mechanic shops, still certified and licensed mechanic facilities. These are on-road vehicles. So, and that's what gets a lot of people scared about these things. You take it to a shop and say, I've got a little mini truck. Right away, they think it's some mixture of a motorcycle and an ATV, and they don't know what it is. They're vehicles. They're trucks. Like literally a Suzuki Carry, a Daihatsu Hi-Jet is a miniaturized version of a North American pickup truck. So any mechanic that actually takes the time, and it generally is the smaller shops that will do that, they'll take the time to actually look into it and say, oh yeah, this is stuff I'm familiar with and working on every single day. So, a lot of times you just need to look up a good local mechanic who is willing to take the time to actually look into the truck. And again, their issue is usually parts. Where am I going to get parts for this thing? Again, so if you can find somebody who's willing to take the time to look into it, who's willing to take the time into being patient with parts, not too difficult. We get calls and sell parts to automotive dealers all the time who get customers' trucks in from all across Canada and say, hey, I've got a customer's 2002 Suzuki Carry and I need a list of parts for it. And we'll sell automotive dealers parts all the time and get calls from them all the time as well. So, just you got to look around and do a little bit of research, and you should have no problem, finding these things. But and again, just some of the other comments coming in as far as, left-hand drive and right-hand drive mods. Again, that's all going to be specific to your local municipality. In the US, again, it's going to depend if they're on-road use, off-road use. In Canada, it really doesn't matter with these things. If they're 15 years old, we can get them into the country. And then as long as they can pass your provincial regulations, you're good to go, except for Quebec, which has banned all right-hand drive vehicle other than for off-road use. And I believe they have to be 25 years old to be able to pass regulations in Quebec. But 15 years anywhere else in Canada. But thanks guys for watching there. Appreciate it. Appreciate the comments for sure. If you have any questions, definitely always let us know. But So yeah, parts and service, easy to get if you do your research. Look up, places. We're always willing to help out. You know what? We are a dealership. We make our money on these mini trucks. We make our money selling parts. So you can always check out our website. It's in the description. I've linked it in the description, foursonsoffroad.com. Now, again, we really focus mainly on the newer style Suzuki Carry trucks for the Canadian market. So we're not going to have a huge plethora of parts, available, but we can source anything basically from Japan if you're having a really hard time finding them. The third topic I want to cover, if you're looking to get into a mini truck, is how do you buy one? Like, where do I get one of these things from? I see people selling them all the time. And, how do I get one and how do I know I'm getting a good one? So first off, there are, and again, I'm generalizing, but there's basically 3 different ways that you can get your hands on a mini truck in Canada or the US. The first way is an exporter. Now, exporters are generally going to be Japanese-based companies, somebody, a company or a person in Japan who basically buys and exports mini trucks or gives you access to, Japanese auctions, and then kind of takes care of the paperwork and some of the ins and outs on the, export side of things to help you out in terms of, getting these mini trucks. Now, the good thing with an exporter is that that's going to be physically the cheapest way you can get a mini truck, is finding the proper exporter in Japan, because literally you're skipping essentially everybody that you can skip. Like, you can't physically buy direct from auction in Japan unless you're physically registered as a Japanese automotive, company. You have to be licensed over there. So you just can't do that sitting over here in a chair in North America, which is why there's lots of exporters in Japan who are licensed. They'll give you access to their auctions, to the listings. Different exporters operate different ways, but again, that's going to be generally the cheapest, the most direct way that you can get yourself a mini truck. The cons with exporters is that unless you know what you're doing, you can get royally messed over buying a truck directly from an exporter. Many exporters, now again, I'm generalizing because there's lots of amazing exporters out there. We have one, so it's not that you can't find them. It's just you have to be careful with it. So some exporters will essentially be in the business of buying up, I would say, less desirable stock from auction in Japan, physically inventorying it, and then just selling it out at, I would say, like listed prices. So if the exporter is saying, okay, you're looking for a 1992 Suzuki Carry, yeah, we've got them for $800, and here you go, take a pick from our list of 14. That type of an exporter, again, not that they're all bad, but you do have to watch for that. If you're just buying something off an exporter's lot, there are chop shops in Japan just like there are here. So there's exporters in Japan that will buy up old junk stock, buy 20 trucks that are in some sort of shape and condition, and put 5 good ones together out of the 20 junky ones, and then just sell them as inventory. So you have to be careful of that. I'm not saying all exporters do that, and very few of them actually do, but there you can get issues like that. The other issue, even with some of the really good exporters, is their job is simply to know and understand the Japanese export business. They're not going to give you any advice or help, or might not be even an expert on any type of a vehicle. They might not know anything about vehicles specifically. So you might have the best exporter in Japan who's as honest as the day is long, and you say, hey, is this a good truck? I'm looking at this 1992 Suzuki Carry on the Japanese auction website, and what can you tell me about it? And he might say, I have no clue. I'm a guy who sits at a computer and does all the export Japanesey stuff. Like, I don't know anything about, the physical vehicle that you're looking to buy. So typically I only recommend dealing with an exporter if you know what you're looking for exactly. You're comfortable with the condition, with the auction ratings, with the auction houses, with all the background of these mini trucks, how to get your hands on them. You're comfortable with the import process, and you know enough that you could correct your exporter if he does something wrong or suggest something wrong. That's really the only time I would recommend going to an exporter. The second way you can get your hands on one of these trucks is an importer. Now, you might think an importer is the same thing as an exporter, but they're not. So importers are typically US or Canadian based for the most part. Now, again, there's generalizations, there's exceptions to all these rules, but most importers are based in the country that they're importing into. What they do is they will utilize the services of an exporter in Japan. So, essentially you're just adding another person to the step. They will buy the vehicles from the exporter in Japan. They'll typically deal again with the exporter with sourcing the stock. They'll deal with all the customs brokerage, transportation, getting that thing into your country so that it can come in without too many headaches and hassles. And essentially just do that process for a fee. So a lot of times an importer will just charge you a fee anywhere from $500 to $1,000, maybe even more. Some importers even bring in stock, as it were, and keep stock or list stock from Japan, but they don't actually have any vested interest in the physical vehicles that they're bringing in. They're just literally selling trucks, whatever it is, whatever you want, we'll get you something in that same make, model, relative mileage, and away you go. So the good thing with importers is, again, they will take care of half the process for you generally, or most of the process of all the paperwork and customs and all that sort of thing. Some importers, again, you do have to watch. Some of them will still basically list you as the importer on record and still make you essentially liable for anything that happens to that truck as soon as it hits US or Canadian soil. But for the most part, they'll take care of most things for you. But again, the bad thing with some importers, now again, I'm generalizing, so don't go screaming at me in the comments about how, your importer was great. Awesome. Great that you found a good importer. Some importers, again, have no clue at what they're bringing in. They're literally bringing in a make, a model, and a year. A Suzuki Carry, 2002, 1992 Suzuki Carry. They don't know anything about it. They don't know which ones were good, which ones were bad. They don't know where to get parts. They don't know how to upgrade them or do anything with them. They just literally are bringing in the truck that you asked for. Take it, give me my fee, and away you go. So you do have to watch for that with the importers. Don't expect to get a lot of help from most importers. That brings me to the third way that you can buy one of these trucks, and that is through a dealer. Now, to clarify what the difference is with a dealer, an importer, and an exporter, is that essentially the dealer is kind of the, I would say, be-all, end-all. Now, if I sound like I'm being a little bit of a favorite, I am. I am a dealer. I am a registered automotive dealer in Alberta. I have all the same licenses as your big Ford and Chevy dealers to sell used vehicles in Alberta. So as a dealer, I'm essentially responsible for everything. There's no such thing as a licensed dealer as a, buyer beware. And again, your local laws might be different. So, in Alberta, there's no such thing as buyer beware, sold as is. We can't do any of that as a licensed dealer in Alberta. We have to take care of everything. So when I'm selling you a mini truck, that thing is, not only have I dealt with the exporter, not only have I done all the importation process myself and made sure that thing lands and is free and clear in Canada, I have to inspect that vehicle or have it inspected, follow our provincial guidelines in terms of paperwork and advertising and yada, yada, yada. We're basically, having to follow a code and deal with everything so that when you walk in and buy a vehicle from us, like if and again, unfortunately, I can only sell direct to Canada and Canadian customers. So we sell all across Canada, and I've got some great contacts of US dealers who can help you out in the US. So always contact me and I'll give you that information if you're from the US. But as a Canadian dealer, when you come and buy a mini truck from us, you literally take your bill of sale and go and get the thing, registered or do whatever. Like, you don't have to do any customs, duties, brokerage, like none of that. We basically have done everything for you, done a local inspection, a local service. You're buying the vehicle just like you'd be walking in and buying a used vehicle anywhere else. So the best part about a dealer, and again, there's probably some bad dealers out there, so I'm not saying every dealer is great. Best part about a dealer is we take care of everything. You literally buy a used Suzuki Carry off us like you'd buy a used Ford F-150 from a Ford dealer. The bad part about a dealer, it's going to be your most expensive way to go. Obviously, we're, having done all the paperwork, paid all the customs duties, brokerage fees, shipping, transit, everything, service, inspection. We've paid all those fees up front. We've paid all the costs into that thing. I have a shop to run. I've got power bills and an internet bill to pay for. I've got advertising costs, things like that. So obviously we're going to need to make a markup on our vehicles. If you think that's a secret, well, welcome to the world. There is markup on dealer vehicles. Wow. Anyways, so you're not going to get the cheapest mini truck from myself, from other dealers, because again, we're taking care of all that kind of stuff for you. But the best part is a good dealer, an accredited licensed dealer, is going to have sold you a vehicle that is essentially, like I say, as good as it's going to get as far as process and paperwork, inspections all done. We take that a couple of steps further, and we do basically any of the basic service that vehicle might need. So if something comes in and it's got, the brake pads are a little bit worn out on it, or even if it still passes, we replace the brake pads. We replace air filters, oil filters, do oil changes, check the coolant, do all those kinds of things so that you can take your truck and use it and run it and work with it and not be stuck with, a project. And we get calls every day from across North America from guys who've essentially gotten themselves into projects, bought trucks that they either thought were good or knew weren't any good from an exporter or an importer. And now we're stuck with, hundreds of dollars bills, even $1,000 bills for parts and pieces that they need to get their trucks to be, road legal or serviceable. Raymond's asking if all these trucks are standard. So I'm assuming you're talking about standard transmissions, Raymond. These trucks are not all standard transmissions. Standard transmissions are definitely the most popular. And again, the main reason for that is, again, coming back to the classification of these vehicles, being 50 horsepower. Automatic transmissions tend to do very poorly on low horsepower vehicles. So you can get automatic transmissions on these little K-Class mini trucks. Most importers, especially off-road importers and dealers, don't bring in automatic transmission vehicles simply because they can't handle off-road use. They're just, the gearing's not low enough. I'll give you a perfect example. So a 2002 Suzuki Carry with an automatic transmission is going to be like a 3 or a 4-speed, depending on the production model, a 3 or a 4-speed transmission in an automatic, no low range. First gear is like probably second gear, high range on a manual transmission. So they just don't have a lot of power. They don't have enough power to turn bigger tires, even to climb hills with stock tires. The transmissions just aren't built for any sort of heavy duty use, and are really underpowered even for on-road use. So that's why most guys shy away from the automatics, and you don't see a lot of them, whereas a nice manual transmission is going to be a 5-speed with high and low range. You put that thing in first gear, low range, we can put tracks on these things, the big ATV tires, and they've got lots of power on the low end to pull through that kind of stuff. So that's the answer to that question, I hope. If anything else, definitely let me know. But yeah, so that's honestly, guys, that's basically it. Definitely can take any more questions. If you guys have anything, shoot me your questions here on the live chat. Otherwise, again, you can always comment on this video afterwards and we'll try to answer you. We can't get back to everybody's comments, unfortunately, but you can also, again, check out our website, foursonsoffroad.com, or you can email us at info@foursonsoffroad.com and check the description of this video for the links to our website and our email address. But yeah, if that's everything, definitely, guys, if you're thinking of getting into a mini truck, they're great as long as you know what you're getting into. Just do a little bit of research ahead of time, and you know what? Chat with a dealer like ourselves. There's lots of dealers. We're not the only ones in Canada. There's dozens in the U.S. Even if you are from the U.S., contact us via email on our website, and we'll get you in touch with a good dealer down in the U.S. that can help you out and hopefully point you in the right direction with these little mini trucks. But again, make sure you check out our channel. We've got 50 plus other videos on these little mini trucks, and really hoping you can check those out and learn as much as you can. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate it. God bless, and have a good day.